Hey guys, happy Sunday. It is June the 24th. We are a few minutes late, but we're going to go ahead and get started. We have Mr. Lancelot Cameron join us tonight. I am super excited. He's going to be talking with us about money. And one of the biggest things in relationship work is understanding money. Money about yourself, how you spend it. Also, money when you are working with a partner, because there's definitely nothing more uncomfortable. All right, so we're going to start talking about it after this. Wow, I still get so excited after watching that. Anyways, thank you guys so much for continuing to join us week after week. It means a lot to me. So over the last 2 weeks, I've had over 7,000 views, and that is incredibly amazing. We're gonna go take a look at the camera. All right. So here you can see, thank you so much for showing for Kenzie's episode, over 2,700 views. Also on Corey's episode, over 4,100 views. This is incredibly amazing. It means a lot. So Kenzie talked about her pain and her hurt. It was an exciting episode. And I'm not going to be surprised if it's just as big as Corey's episode. So, yes, this is big. All right. So, yes, Lancelot's coming on tonight. He is a financial consultant here in New York. He works at MetLife, I think. The biggest thing is that he works for himself. This is my brother Lancelot. He's going to be talking with us about money. It's going to be incredibly exciting. So when patients come in to see me in my practice, a lot of work they talk about is the fact that, hey, doc, there's just some things we don't do well. And like I said last week, there are three things: sex, money, and communication. A third of people who leave one another is usually because of sex, because of the fact that the sex isn't so great, or they don't have great communication about sex. And one of the things that Lancelot talk about is the fact that they don't talk well about money. And communication with money is another big issue. So when do I join bank accounts with my boo or with my bae? When is the right time? What's a good credit score for bae to have before I say we should be together versus you need to work on you? Okay, so those are going to be really exciting topics as we go over to Lancelot. Some research that I read was really interesting. So when people cohabitate, typically the first two individuals that they live with in that cohabitation becomes individuals that they don't marry. So you meet boo right out of his parents' house. More than likely he's not going to marry you, or she's not going to marry you. So just keep that in mind. And Lancelot may talk a bit about that, because it's easier to make $200,000 a year when you're alone versus that's stupid. It's easier to make $200,000 a year together versus when you're alone. So sometimes it may seem smart to put money together, but is it really so smart, especially given those statistics? So, yep, have your questions. We got a few people in. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Bo. Thank you, Evelyn, for joining in. Also, thank you, Lisa, and all the other ones that are here. So, if you have any questions, any thoughts about what we talk about today, make sure that you throw it out there because we want to hear it all. All right, so we're going to bring in my brother as a Lancelot. Lancelot, how's it going?
Wesley, I am great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you again so much for deciding to do this. It means a lot. I know we've been talking over the last couple of months saying, okay, let's do this episode. And I'll be honest, part of it was a bit of uncomfortability for me because I've been in a relationship where it's been difficult to talk about money. So then if I've been in it and I think that I've reached some level of like actualization, then I'm sure other people have been there as well. And the last thing I want is for somebody to say, well, I dated Wesley and I know he struggled with money too. So yeah. So thank you for being so flexible in this date. It means a lot.
You're quite welcome again. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks. So tell me about your work. Tell viewers about work.
Okay, so I think what makes the episode really like so relevant, especially for me, is I the way I got into my work is I wasn't great with money, and right out of high school I went into the military. I served 4 years in the Marine Corps, and during those 4 years, in the military, you get paid on the 1st and the 15th. And so for me, over 4 years of just getting paid, at the end of those 4 years, I ended up with $1,000 in my name. After 4 years, $1,000, thousands of dollars passing through my hands. And so what I learned
Wow.
was just how much I wasn't great with money and managing it. I didn't know how it worked or anything like that. And you talk about the embarrassment. I didn't talk about that. I didn't tell my friends about that. I didn't share it with anyone. All I did was made a declaration to myself that I was going to figure this thing out. I was too embarrassed to talk it, to let my friends know where I was, how irresponsible I had been. And so I just figured it out on my own. And so that's, in that figuring out, that's actually how I found my passion, because the more I learned, the more excited I became. And then I got to the point where I was able to teach, to counsel others. And then now it just, as much as I tried to resist it, like this really is a place for me. And so that's how I found my passion. So, it's the one thing that, so we mentioned communication a lot, right? And so communication is the essence of everything. It's said that the quality of our communication is the quality of our lives. So whether it's sex, relationship, finance, whatever aspect of life you're having a challenge in, just consider that the level of communication you have in that area has to do with the challenges you're having. So it's directly correlated.
Wow.
So what I
Okay, go ahead. So,
Yeah. So what I do is I have my own practice with New York Life, and I work with individuals, I work with families, I work with small businesses to help them identify and achieve their financial goals. And so that's my passion. I love it. I get to, like, no 2 days are the same for me, and I just love what I do. So
okay. One of the biggest things you help nurses. Tell me more about that.
so I actually I actually dated a few nurses, and so that's sort of how, before I was actually in the field, I've dated a few nurses, and so that's how. So I had some background on nurses and so forth, and then so once I got into this space, it just became natural. I just said to myself, I'm going to focus not just on nurses but the medical field, and so that's really how it came about. And so what I do, I work with quite a few of the nursing organizations on a local and national level to empower and educate their members on how money works and make sure that they're positioned, as hard as you guys work and the level of commitment and dedication you have towards your patients. My goal is to offer that same level of commitment and dedication to you guys to make sure that when you leave the profession, that you're able to retire in style. Like really, you're able to have a very fulfilling retirement because you've taken care of your finances. So that's sort of my approach.
So yes, we work hard, and there are nurses who dwell with money. I wasn't one of them, but I've learned to be better. So the first question comes from a nurse who said, "Hey, I want to know. I go out on a date with a guy. Within the first 3 months, he uses a Groupon. She's not really feeling him. What do you think, Lancelot?"
Well, I think we all want to be ballers, first of all. Um, I
Yes,
think
we do.
we all wanna live the life, and I think given given some of the things that I've seen, especially in meeting with older nurses and hearing their stories, it's I want to. It's great to live the life. It's great to go to brunch every weekend, Saturday and Sunday,
I feel like you're talking about my
parties,
life, by the
shopping.
way.
You know what, I probably am on some level. However, it's all those things can be achieved, but with proper planning. And so it's for me, I'm a bargain hunter, I'm a bargain shopper, and I just know that one of the things I tell people is that one of the most inefficient ways of using your money is if this as soon as you get paid or however you do it, taking that money and then just going out and spending it, because what you're doing is you actually haven't given that money any opportunity to work for you. If I'm out on a date, well, actually, I'll give you some background. One time I went on a date with someone, and it was actually an Asian woman, and we had lunch, and I left a tip, and then she said to me, she said, she picked the money up. She said, "You're leaving too much money." And I was like, wow. I actually admired her for that, because for me it was like she was, she she wasn't against leaving a tip, but she wanted to do it. There are parameters that she had, and so for me, it just told me a little bit. It just gave me some insight into how she is with money, and I actually like my level of respect for her in that moment actually just elevated. So for me, if I'm going out with someone and they're looking for deals, they're deal shopping, I love that, because in those moments I can learn from that person, but also it actually gives me really greater insight to what their values are. And ultimately, that's what I want to get to whenever I'm talking to someone. I really want to know what your values are.
So when is the best time to join money?
Well, you definitely want to be serious, obviously, right? I think that would be some place where you just have to get to a point where you've developed that level of comfort in a relationship. And I think before doing so, obviously, a certain level of background has to be established. So I think before you get that deep, you would want to know. You mentioned credit scores earlier. So I want to know your credit score. I want to know how responsible you are with money. You know, and I also believe that once that comfort is achieved, I think that even though accounts should be joined, or if you choose to join an account, I think every relationship is different, and so you want to have that conversation and see how the other person feels about it. But also, if and when you join an account, I think you should both have separate accounts, right? And you both contribute whatever needs to be contributed to the joint account. But I also believe in having space individually to just do the things that you want to do separate from that joint account. So if I want to go to a basketball game or whatever it is, I can use my separate account, my own money for that, which it doesn't hinder from what it is that we're doing as a couple.
Okay. So I have a question from a viewer. Lisa, after years of having money together, I feel like I want my own money. What are your thoughts? How do I have a conversation about, I know we've done this for 15 years, joining money, but now I want my own.
Well, I think it goes back directly to what I said, which is even though we have a joint account, we should also have our separate monies. You know, if we need $5,000 a month in the joint account, and we put whatever is there, any extra, I'm going to keep that in my account. However, if let's say that's not the case, and it sounds like Lisa has an existing situation,
Right.
that's a conversation. And so it's again, how well we communicate has a lot to do with the quality of our relationships, and that's with any relationship. So it really is just a matter of sitting down with that individual, bringing that conversation up, and obviously it is a delicate conversation, and you want to be very considerate of that, and also consider that if you are it could be that since you're uncomfortable, they're possibly uncomfortable as well. And so it's really just a matter of having the conversation.
Right. So this is my thought as a psychotherapist. So yes, it looks like okay, we've taken this big jump forward, and now I just kind of want to have a little bit for me.
For mine, yeah.
It may not be about you, just something that I want for myself. So it's about trying to understand that with the person. That could be a little bit uncomfortable too. Lisa, I would love to know if there are any reasons behind it, or you just kind of want to have a little bit of more security as an individual. So let us know. I mean, Lancelot, you see couples come in. What is the biggest thing that they struggle with about money?
Well, I think it's usually there's an imbalance where one person is great while the other has some challenges, and so there's one person tends to be shouldering the load financially, and sort of always has to be on the person that's not as responsible, and so that causes some strain, that causes some tension, and so that's one of the biggest things that I see.
Okay. Especially with nurses, you think? Or no?
Yes,
Okay.
because in that dynamic, for some nurses, they are usually they're making more money. So that's one aspect of it where it causes some strain because their partner probably isn't making as much, and also they're not as responsible as well. So there's some insecurity there on on the partner that isn't making as much, and also that they're not as great with money, and so those challenges tend to weigh on the relationship.
Got you. Second question from Bo. I think about retirement all the time. That's really great, Bo. The optimal goal is to retire in my 60s. What additional advice can be given to make sure I can retire in my 60s and still live a life to the fullest, modestly?
I would say, so very generally, you want to, there are two things that can derail your retirement. The first is taxes. So you want to make sure that where you have your money is in a place that it's someplace that's helping you to reduce your tax liability. So where most people tend to have their retirement money is in 401ks and 403bs, which actually does quite the opposite. It actually raises their level of tax liability. And second is with risk, market risk. So again, most people tend to have their monies in the 401ks and 403bs. And I don't know if anyone remembers 2008, 2009, when the market just dipped. And so if most of your money tends to be in those accounts, when the next financial downturn happens, chances are you're going to lose anywhere from 30, 40, or even 50% of your money. So the two things that you want to guard against are taxes and volatility. market volatility. And so those are some of the things that I'm able to help my clients ward off. So just position them such that they're actually able to grow their money without having to worry about those two. Those two.
Great thing you brought up though, Lancelot. Can I go to brunch every weekend and treat out friends if I want to retire by my 60s?
Probably not. So there's
I'm not liking this conversation.
there's a term called discipline and denial, right? And so it's, you know, it all depends. So depending on how you're managing your money, if you just have a salary, and if you're not putting your money to work for you, if you're not maximizing your financial capacity, then chances are you're not going to be able to. And so lots of nurses that I meet, they are ripe for other opportunities, whether it be real estate or other business ventures where they can have their money work for them. So not just relying on their 401k or, you know, whatever savings they have, but really looking at how they can have those monies really go to work and bring in more money for them. And I'm a huge advocate of that. You know, first you want to create a strong financial foundation, but then you also want to look at, again, what are other ways that my money can work for me, right? So I think once you take on those things, and it really obviously it entails expanding your financial capacity, learning a lot more about money, learning a lot more about business. And so, you know, nursing is a very challenging profession, lots of education required there. And so you are going to have to put aside some time to learn the language of money and business. But it is possible.
Okay, so I'm a manager and I manage this young lady, and she's like, I want to be young, fly, and flashy in my 20s and my 30s. What's a reasonable amount of spending?
I would say let's kind of start it from the other way. So, look, I would say if you put away 20% if you save 20%, right, and then you have money left over, you can do whatever with whatever is left over. But if you want to live a great lifestyle in retirement, then put away 20%, and then whatever you have left, go to town. You know, go spend all you want with that. Take care of your future first.
Okay, so if I may say, for instance, just using figuratively,
Yeah.
$200,000 a year, and 20% of $200,000 is roughly around about. You're the money guy. You tell me.
Yeah. So 20% of that would be 40 grand.
Okay.
So
Not bad.
So if you can put away $40,000 and live the rest of your life on the remaining 160, then yeah. And again, and that's why I really recommend people sit down with an expert. Look, one of the things I hear about nurses is that they don't like when patients come in and pretend that they know their job better than the nurse. And
Okay.
so and so for an individual, whether a nurse or whomever, meet with a financial professional and really get some direction. Because I think one of the things is that people tend to do it on their own, or they tend to think that, well, it's my money, I earned this money, I'm going to spend it how I want. You're correct. However, consider that that's a limiting approach to money and finance.
Okay. So what's a smart thing to do in your 20s and your 30s about your money? Blow it. Live it. Get your life.
Create a foundation. Create a very strong financial foundation, so that. And here's the thing: saving is a habit, and habits are better if they're developed early. So start saving.
Okay. So should I buy life insurance at 20 or 30, or should I wait till I'm 40?
Most definitely, you definitely want to get life insurance when you're 5 years old.
Wow. Okay.
So the thing again, consider this: if someone is to die right now without life insurance, that person has essentially become a burden to their family. Because by not having life insurance, their family now has to scrape up the money in order to take care of their final expenses. So now you're essentially doing your family a disservice. Life insurance is something that the earlier you get it, the more affordable it is. So from life insurance, you can get life insurance for a child at 2 years old. Now, the benefit to that is that they can keep that for the rest of their life, right? And they can, when they get to certain ages, they're able to upgrade it to expand the level of coverage. But the earlier you get life insurance, the more affordable it is. Now, when you get to retirement, you want to have life insurance because life insurance is one way of transferring wealth. Life insurance ensures that you're able to transfer $500,000, $1 million, whatever that amount is, over to your family tax free. So it's definitely something that you want to have. If you wait until you're in your 40s, it's going to cost you, it's going to cost you, it's going to cost you more. And
Okay.
should you develop, a health condition later in life, and you waited to get life insurance, chances are it's going to cost you a few $100s a month, or you probably won't even be able to afford it. Life insurance is really, it's the most essential thing and really the most basic thing an individual can do to really increase their financial position and that of their family.
Okay, cool. I got a call from Norma, but it looks like I missed you, Norma. So I didn't know if you wanted to call in or video in. So please call back. I guess is the best way to say. So I can bring viewers up on the screen if they call me via Messenger and stuff like that. All right.
Oh,
So
perfect.
that's great. Otherwise, Lancelot, I mean, thank you so much for the information. How can
You're
people
welcome.
find you? How can they reach out to you?
Uh, Lancelot NY. For Instagram, Lancelot NY. For Facebook, it's Lancelot Cameron. What is it? What is my Facebook? Just look for me, Lancelot Cameron, or facebook.com/Lance is gold.
Okay.
And or Gmail, Lancelot Cameron at gmail.com. So my entire name at gmail.com. So those are a few ways to get in touch with me.
Okay. What are some resources that people could also read, pick up to learn to be more financially savvy as a young person?
So, two books I love to recommend. The first is The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. Clason is the last name. And the second is The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas J. Stanley. So The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas J. Stanley. So those are two books that really I actually created a workshop, a 10-week workshop using three books, and those are two of the books. And they really give you a very firm financial foundation of just what money is, how to manage it, and how to be great with it. And so if you're able to just pull away some of the nuggets in those books, and here's the thing, you want to read those books more than once, more than twice. You want to revisit them, probably once a year, right? To make sure that you learn something new. You're not going to get everything just, in the first sitting.
Gotcha. So I'm going to put those books in the link below. So
Okay.
definitely people can go on. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook later, you can look at those. Also, anything else, Lancelot?
I would say read, you know, so money is something that we're going to be dealing with for the rest of our lives, right? It's one of the things that impact every other area of our lives, and so it's something that essentially you want to get great at. It's a language that you want to be fluent in. So one of the things I recommend is, whether it be every 3 months or every 6 months, read a book on money and finance, because you want this is, unlike, for me, I would love to learn French, but right now it takes too much. Well, that's not the case with money. Money is something that you really can become great at. It's just a matter of picking up a book, and even if it's 2 books a year, go for it, and you can definitely begin to master the language of money and how money works.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. I will talk with you later. All right.
Thank you so much, Wesley.
All right, guys. So you heard it from Lancelot. He's great with money. Look him up. Reach out to him. He practices in the state of New York City, in the state of New York, in New York City. So he's very reasonable, very easy to talk to, as you can see. Next week, we have on the show Kelly Johnson. She is a former Miss America contestant. She was the second runner up. She is one of, if not the most popular nurses right now who is out there that's also living. And we're going to be sitting down with her. I am interested to learn about how it is to kind of stomach who you are and what happened to you and continue to be okay. I mean, for most of you that know, the girls on what's that show? I don't really watch a lot of it, but that show with the girls, Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Bear, and and what is Raven Simone? Yes. So they had cute things to say about Kelly Johnson and her performance. So we'll talk about that. I'm excited to have her on. Yeah. So otherwise, have a great week.